Welcome guys back to another lecture in our How Color Works in Game and Level Design section. This is another lecture in our little color as an identifier group. So now that we understand what colors are in terms of being an identifier, we're going to look at now what glyphs and neutrals are. So we're going to talk about the definition of them, the labeling, and exclusivity. So color glyphs. These are basically colors that are used to make an object identifiable by its color. So all of the colors are referred to as neutrals in a color layout. So what I mean by this is that a glyph is basically allowing us to say, okay, this is going to be blue. And then all the other colors that are not associated with any mechanics are considered neutrals. So open ground. And now in order to effectively label these colors to objects, we must assume that the user's knowledge is bare minimum. So use a base label that works for the general population. Don't use crazy colors such as magenta yellow to distinguish, let's say, the circle, or don't use cayenne green, or I don't know, burnt orange or plum. Don't use anything crazy. That's people are not going to understand. Keep it simple. And what I mean by simple is just use the primary and secondary colors. So when it comes to labeling, use of visual elements that can be verbal names. So verbally said names without any issue. So nothing like magenta, green, blue. Like no, don't go crazy. Use of only primary and secondary colors as color glyphs. Now you could also add black, white, and pink into that little mix, because people are really able to establish, what these are. So it's very simple to understand. But keep in mind, primary and secondary colors are always used for glyphs, and then with the other three coming along with it. Now when it comes to exclusivity, sometimes a color that would be seen as an identifier isn't, due to the nature of not separating it from other elements, and this can take place in a number of settings where less dominant colors must act as identifiers. So just to recap, we know what a color identifier is. It's basically assigning rules by grouping or separating certain colors in our color scheme. Looking at glyphs, glyphs are specifying those specific colors. Now choosing which colors are going to be the ones that are going to be associated with an identifier. And a neutral color is basically any color that is not considered to be part of the rules. That is open grounds. That is considered a neutral. So glyphs always associated with an identifier. Now I'm going to explain in a little example so that we're not all lost here. Take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, green is considered a secondary color, as we know. Our primaries are still red, blue, and yellow, and then our secondary is green, orange, and purple. But as you can see here, green is used by all four of the ninjas. So automatically green should not be considered a glyph, and it has to be mutually exclusive. Not mutually exclusive. Now, so you may ask, okay, so how do we identify these different types of turtles since we already knocked out one of the secondary colors? Well, having some sort of accessory to act as the identifier must be in place in order to properly distinguish them from the other ones. So creating our own glyphs at the time. And for the example of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, our glyphs are red, purple, blue, and orange, associated with their bandanas and pretty much all their other accessories, their ropes and their belts and all that stuff. And the neutral in this is green. So like I said, this green would be open grounds. Green is something that we are not able to use to distinguish one from another one, because it's used between all three. So we have to use other color glyphs, which would be red, blue, purple, and orange. And keep in mind, those four colors are still part of the primary and secondary ones. And that's it, guys, for explaining how glyphs and neutrals work with using colors as identifiers. In the next lecture, we're going to look at color layouts. So trying to tie all this stuff together so that we could highlight key elements in our scenes. Thanks for listening, and see you guys in the next one.